Welcome to Women Engage Season 5. In this program, we bring women from all walks of life to talk about real issues affecting women in the contemporary world. I'm your host, Rose Misati. In case you're watching us for the first time, be sure to go back and follow our previous episodes in the various social media platforms. With me today, I have two beautiful ladies. It's the second part where we are dealing with drug and substance addiction as affects the contemporary woman. In the first episode, we had Carol share with us her story, her journey of addiction, right from an early age to the time she went to college. We talked about the telltale signs that somebody is struggling with addictions. We talked about the impact addiction has in women. I want to encourage you to go and watch our first episode if you didn't watch. And before I go further, I want to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. Please, Carol, introduce yourself.
My name is Caroline Kagia. I am a certified addictions therapist. I'm also a speaker, an author, a wellness coach. I wear many hats. I am also a mom to two children, an 18-year-old and an 8-year-old. And yeah, I think that wraps it.
Welcome, Carol.
Thank you.
To the discussion today.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that you have graciously accepted to open your life and share your story, and it's going to set many people free and encourage so many who are struggling or those who have loved ones who are struggling with addictions.
My name is Bisase Mora. I'm a medical doctor by profession into preventive medicine. I am a lifestyle coach. I'm a mother of 4. I'm married to one man.
Great, great. Yes. And as I already introduced myself, I'm Rose Misati, married with 4 children. I'm a public health specialist and behavior change expert. I'm a pharmacist and certified family trauma professional. Carol shared her story with us. And we got to the point whereby you went primary school, you went to high school, local schools, then got to international school. There, the culture shock. Cigarette drinking started. Then you have gone to study abroad. So you're studying abroad and you're missing a lot of time in your classes. That's the point that we got to. Before we get to your story, I want Bisase to help us as a lifestyle coach and medical practitioner to define addiction for us. And then Carol will pick up and share the rest of the story with us.
Addiction is a brain disorder. It's a brain disorder whereby an individual gets to inclination towards a substance or an activity that will give them a reward because of some emptiness that they have in themselves. And this, of course, will have an impact physically, it will have an impact psychologically, and even socially. And someone will actually want to get more into that activity or into the substance that they are addicted to the point that they even lose a sense of their own wellness. And any trial to get out of it, they face some withdrawal symptoms. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for that definition. So, Carol, tell us, what happens in Malaysia where you're studying?
In Malaysia, I just became the life of the party. Made very many friends, Kenyans and people from different countries. And in Malaysia, it's almost impossible to live alone as a student.
Okay.
Reason being the rent is very expensive.
Okay.
So in my house, I had different roommates, females from different countries. And the first people to notice I had a problem were them. Because I would party and would party hard. I would go to I had a boyfriend in a different state who was studying in a different university there. And he was more of a lifeist than I was. Unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago due to alcohol-related complications. So we would party really hard with this person. And my roommates would get very concerned because they would always hear stories. Carol was in a car accident. Carol was almost raped. Caro is hanging out with a lot of people who are smoking marijuana and drinking too much. My name was everywhere. Caro, 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 Caro. On campus grounds and wherever we used to live. So one of them told me, Caro, the way you're partying and the way you've survived so many near-death experiences, we don't like the way you're going. And if you go to that different state this weekend, you will come back and find we have left this house. Please note, this is 11 months into my time in Kuala Lumpur. I'm not going to class. I'm playing cat and mouse with my lecturers and with my parents. So I said, these girls are joking. So me, I took the train and I went to that state. On coming back Sunday evening.
They had gone?
They had gone.
You are alone?
I am alone. And I've been left for a letter. They are saying, we care about you, but we decided we can't watch you die. Now,
they were
I have
so
to...
emotionally healthy.
Who?
Those girls.
friends.
Yeah.
They
I was
the
only drunkard in that house.
I like them already.
So I have two options, either to become a layabout in Kuala Lumpur or come back home. That was the only option.
11 months later.
11 months later. I was supposed to be in
what
Kuala
did you
Lumpur
do?
for 2 years, then 2 years in Australia. My parents had already budgeted for all that time.
I see.
So what do? I send an email back home and I tell my dad, I think I'm going to die here. I want to come back.
Get me home. Yeah.
So they organized for a ticket and I flew back, JKIA. At the airport, they almost passed me. They couldn't recognize me.
How were you looking?
When I left, I was fat and brown. When I came back, I was dark and thin. There's a problem. There's something that happens to people who drink hard liquor. And especially if it's cheap and you're not eating well. You know, you become darker because already your organs inside have already started wasting away.
How did that affect your health?
My health, by the way, I was very healthy, by the way.
Okay. Healthy physically.
I was healthy physically.
Yeah. You'll have the energy to go,
yeah.
But actually inwards, the organs in the body were complaining.
Yeah.
And so the skin is not alive. That's true. Hence the reason why the skin was darkened.
Yeah. My mom I think she almost fainted. She didn't say anything, but her eyes
were enough.
Mother's eyes always speak volumes.
Like you have come from abroad, you're meant to be looking like you've come from...
clothes that have come from Chinatown and CDs. Our youngest brother had asked me to bring for him CDs for animation because he wanted to become an animator. And this is when he was in primary. And that is the only thing of value I came with because he used those CDs, DVDs for so many years.
Discs.
Yeah,
yes.
there were those things they used to sell.
Discs, yes. Yes.
And he worked on those things for so long. He became one of the best animators in this country, and he actually got an Oscar nomination in March this year.
Wow.
So that is the only important part.
So you come to the airport?
Yes.
Let me get this.
Yes.
Your parents see you, they want to pass you.
No, they couldn't recognize me.
You could recognize
yes.
them. Nevertheless, they got you, you go home.
We enter the car. The car is a silent, pin drop silence. Nobody's talking.
Yeah.
It's my mother, my father, and our last born.
Yeah.
Those days, there was no bypass from the airport all the way to home.
So it's...
full circle. Nobody is talking. Nobody.
The
nothing.
shock.
Not even how was Malaysia. Nothing.
About 40 kilometers drive of silence.
Silence. Me, I'm wishing the ground would open and swallow me.
They can clearly see there's a problem.
When we got home, the Pandora's box was opened.
And then
my mother started talking. And now she's talking in vernacular. You know, when you speak in vernacular, it gets in
penetrates
completely.
To the bone, to the marrow.
It speaks to you.
My kid brother has been told to go and do other things. Now it is me, my mother, and my father. I am sweating and it is cold. My mother says, you're such a disappointment. We did a fundraising for you to go. Now, you know, she's those people of what will people say.
What will you tell people?
Yes. Now people will say we ate their money, we stole. You've disappointed us. Now we had said, you know, she said so many things. And she says, now because you've done that, what will happen? We will look for money to educate your siblings. You take care of the cows. When my dad had that, he spoke. He said, no, you can't do that. Let's give another chance. She goes back to school.
Your mom sounds like me.
Yes, well, for those who have met her, they know her.
I would say take care of the chicken.
Yes.
The cows.
So I was privileged. I joined the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication and another school called Air Travel. So I was in 2 schools for 3 years, back to back.
Did you complete?
Very successfully.
So you completed?
I completed. And at that point, I rededicated my life to Christ again.
So were you drinking within those 3 years?
No.
Sober.
You were
I was sober. I went
and
back
you
to
were living
choir.
at home?
Yes.
And before we talk about the sobriety, I want you to tell us something. During this period you were drinking, how did it impact your relationships? You know, I mean with the opposite gender, with men?
In Malaysia, I was steady. You know, I only had one relationship throughout Malaysia. So for me, I think I've always been very particular about the people I bring into my space.
Okay.
So, and I think God put that thing in me, He instilled it in me, you know. I was not those ones of jumping from Tom to James to I don't know who.
Yeah.
For me, that was
And
wrong.
also I'm hearing your father being a really present and solid father.
My father has been consistent throughout
Consistent.
my life.
I'm seeing that, and that must have played into you valuing yourself in that manner.
I think
not
so.
Getting into.
Actually, I've never thought about that.
That is it. It has a role to play. Your dad was very consistent and steady in your life.
Yeah.
So that sort of protect. And this is a message to the fathers listening to us. That protected you from getting into these relationships, romantic relationships that will destroy you.
Yeah.
I want you to tell us, because along the way you said you got children. Because you've said your firstborn is 18 and your secondborn is
8.
Now, how did that come about, you know, in terms of even your parenting? Did you get the children when you were in addiction? How did that happen?
I got my son in my last semester of college.
Back now when you're in the country,
yes,
you were
here.
clean, let's call it that.
Yes, and
you were sober.
But the only thing I was struggling with is cigarettes.
I see.
And
but you were not drinking.
I have a mad admiration for anybody who's been able to quit cigarettes. It's almost impossible.
Oh, I've heard that.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
My drinking really escalated during my first pregnancy. With my daughter, I tried. But with my first pregnancy, it was terrible because, you see, I was in denial.
Yeah, I was wondering, could it have been a coping mechanism for you at the time?
You know, I think, you know, many things were going through my mind at that time. Yeah. But eventually my son came and unfortunately the night he came, I had been drinking very heavily that day. That day, actually. Started drinking in the morning, called my brother to come. He came and asked me, why do you look so big? I told him, I'm not big, you're high. That's what I told him. So we get home at about 7 p.m. and my dad is the one who opens the door and he was so irritated. He said, you people are so drunk, you won't even eat, go to bed. So I go to bed. Okay. And I'm hungry, a hungry, drunk, pregnant woman. At 3 in the morning, my back decided it is time. So me, I'm not understanding, you know. That's why they say alcoholism is a form of madness.
It's a form
because how can you be in denial?
It's a brain disease.
It is a brain disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How can one be in denial for 9 months that they are pregnant?
Yeah.
Okay. So me, I didn't know I'd gone into labor.
The kicks and
I just thought my back is going crazy. So I moved my mattress from which corner of the room to the other and nothing. My brother used to live in the main house. Hey, this guy has really seen a lot. He has walked with me through this journey because we've struggled together. So I go and wake him up. I tell him, go and wake daddy. Not mommy, daddy. Now, you see, at some point, pregnancy, you can't hide. It's all over. So who comes? My mother. And she asks me, Njari, are you pregnant? I told her, no.
And you're in labor?
Yes. And she just laughed.
She did not know she was in labor?
No, you see where I was now? Too bad. Things have happened. So my dad is woken up and the guy is clueless. He's wearing his pajamas. He's just on his glasses. He's saying, okay, let's go to the car, Mom. What's the problem? I told him, I don't know. So our road is a very rough road. So me, I'm telling you, I'm in pain. We get to one of the local dispensaries there. A nurse tells me to enter a certain room. She does some checks. She tells me I'm dilating. I don't even know what dilating means. I've done English all the way to Form 6 English literature, but I do not know what dilating is, or my mind had refused. In the other room, I'm hearing my dad being told, congratulations, Mr. Kagia, you're going to be a grandfather. So my father asked the doctor, grandfather to what?
From where?
And he says, the doctor is deceased now. He says, Mr. Kagia, your daughter is going to give birth. Which daughter? The one you brought, Caro. She's going to be a mom, yes. He said, oh, okay. My dad is a very cool guy, phlegmatic. He entered the car, went home.
Left you in the labor ward?
Yes. Here he found my mother seated on the bed and told her, congratulations, you're going to be a show. And he slept. And life continued. For him, he had accepted it. My dad is not easily faced by things, by the way. He doesn't get shocked easily. So because of the alcohol in my system, my labor was so intensive, it was 26 hours. We almost didn't make it. At some point, my son had to be suctioned, but he's alive and by the mercies of God. And as if having a baby should have stopped me from drinking, it became worse. Because 4 months later, I was privileged to work with one of the leading media houses in sales. Now, with predictable income and my drinking problem, I also started running away from home. I would disappear on weekends. I'd say we have gone for road shows. I've forgotten I have a baby at home. My youngest sister is the one who actually raised my son for a very long time. And she took on that role perfectly. She started raising my son when she was 19. And until today, they're very good friends.
And I like the fact that you say there's constraint in the family relationship. If there was a relationship to begin with
in the first
then
place,
you will notice there's a constraint. But if there was no relationship to begin with, then it's a bit hard.
It's a bit hard.
It's a bit
so
hard.
we need to. So now that brings me to my next point when you talked about relationship, because it's very important.
Yes.
Somebody actually said the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection.
Connection, true.
Connection with family, connection with friends, connection with God. Now, Carol, you are a mother. You've been raised in a home. You have a loving family that has been there for you. What do you wish, okay, let me put it this way. What can parents do to prevent, first of all, because we are talking about prevention, to prevent maybe you look back, you're like, maybe if my parents did this, maybe I would not have gotten into addiction. Or yourself, maybe you're like, if I do this, I can help my children navigate. What would you like to say?
For me, I always encourage parents to have conversations with their children, not confrontations.
Not confrontation.
Especially with this generation, these Gen Zs. These ones are not confronted.
On the go, always on the go.
These ones, you need to sit down with them and talk to them as adults. I wish I had that kind of a relationship with my parents growing up.
Conversation, not confrontation.
Yeah, conversation, not confrontation.
Yeah.
You see, because like we are 5 children.
Yeah.
The first 3 of us grew up, I think, with a lot of fear and low self-esteem.
That's common for many parents.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the 3 of us have been to rehab more than once. You see? The way we are, firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn. We have been to rehab more than once. So me, I've taken it upon myself, especially with my 18-year-old. I speak to him like an adult because he has seen my journey of drinking. He has even attempted to taste my alcohol and my cigarettes.
I see.
So, and unfortunately, in the kind of a school where he is, there are a lot of children who are doing these things. So with him, I speak to him and tell him as it is. And I do the same with my daughter, you see? Yeah. Because she may not know now, but I'm sure somewhere along the way, she must have seen something.
She must have seen, the memories.
So parents parents also need to stop burying their heads in the sand. The times have changed.
Be real.
Be real and tell these children. By the way, they are very smart.
Yeah.
My 8-year-old, I can actually sit and have a conversation with her about anything.
Have the difficult conversation.
It's important.
And be the parent.
Because what is happening out there is terrible. If you do not talk to your child as it is, they will meet a dysfunctional child outside
Somebody will
mess with them.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
Yes.
So whatever you leave empty, somebody or something is actually going to fill it.
Yeah.
And many a times, whatever fills it is the evil thing. Not the good thing.
Exactly. And it's so easy. Have you seen that it's very easy for us to get into the evil thing than the right thing?
True.
It's very easy. It's very easy for us to, it's just like negative thoughts. It's easy to get them than even the positive thoughts. They come so easily. I want us to talk about another point that is very critical in terms of, now, Carol, you've said the 3 of you have been to rehab more than once. Many times what I see is that families are not equipped to respond when their loved one is addicted. You have talked a lot about being whipped. You have talked about the silence, and you've talked about the what did you say? The lectures. The lectures and the talking, which I find myself so easily doing. I want to give you a piece of my mind, if not a piece of my fist. Now, if now a family, because I know there are many families that have members struggling with addiction, what should they do? What is the appropriate response, the appropriate way to respond?
First, parents should stop, or caregivers should stop burying their heads in the sand.
Talk about it.
talk about it.
Yeah, openly.
Talk to this person. Don't confront. If you confront somebody who is struggling, by the way, you're just pushing them.
You push them further. So lovingly, gently talk about it.
Talk to them and get professional help. It's unfortunate, especially in Africa, let me speak for Kenya, the rates of alcoholism amongst women is on an all-time high.
Amongst women.
Amongst women.
That's why it's important for us to have this conversation in Women Engage. And
women are carrying even vodka in their bags to work. You know, if you're taking an expensive vodka doesn't have a smell. So it's you can even put it in your black tea.
Okay.
And your bosses will see, all of a sudden, this person is...
lighted up.
But when you came in the morning, you were having a hangover. But now you have had your eye opener with your 10 o'clock tea.
Okay.
Or coffee. Or coffee. As long as it's black, not with milk.
Yeah.
Mothers are the ones who are also struggling with this thing, because what girls are doing nowadays is they pour out jik or juice and you put in vodka.
In the container of jik.
Yes, and then they return the label. You just need to remove it and put it back. So even when you're being searched by the matron.
Technique.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. Don't joke. Anyone wants to drink, there's nothing they can do.
They're intelligent.
Yeah, you remove the label and you put it back. So when you're being searched by the matron can't find anything.
True. Because you're carrying jik to school.
Yes, or juice. Girls nowadays are soaking tampons in vodka.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
And they're inserting the tampon. So there's no smell, but somebody is high.
Someone is high. And you see now, you've shocked your heart because this thing has just checked in. Yeah. The alcohol, the concentration in a tampon is so high.
Because it soaks, the cotton will soak.
So your heart is shocked. The bloodstream, you're high. And you're high almost the whole day.
It's so dangerous because of the way it's being inserted.
Yes.
That feels so dangerous.
And the concern for me as a woman in recovery is for these children. These are children who are going to be mothers one day. The possibility of getting children who have fetal alcohol syndrome distress is very high. That is a condition where somebody looks like they have this condition. I keep forgetting.
They look like an
Down
old
syndrome.
man.
Like children who have Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And I have seen it in closer circles.
Mental retardation. Yeah.
I have seen it in closer circles. I know it's real. These children never mature to be like full, normal adults.
Because the alcohol affects their brain from the time their development.
Yes.
When
it can be the brain itself. Yeah. It can even be the physique in itself deformed. By the time the child is coming out, is deformed.
There's someone in my closer circles who drank throughout her pregnancy. Me, my children are a miracle from God. I think I was meant to walk this journey so as to help people. Yeah, but there's a child who was born in our closer circles with this FASD. That child was born at 1.9 kilos. This girl was in ICU for 3 months. You see? So I've seen it with my own eyes. For me, I've had 2 miscarriages, alcohol related, back to back.
And that speaks to the unique challenges women face because they are women, really, because of the makeup and everything, the fetal alcohol syndrome. And so I'm thinking about the impact that has on the next generation. Now, our time is fast running. I'm asking you, ladies, is there hope? I want you to tell us if there is hope, if somebody is watching us and they realize they're addicted or their loved one is addicted. Is there hope? I know Caro is here as a living testimony, but I want you to speak to the people watching. Is there hope?
There is hope. One is to actually start by accepting that I have a problem and then stand up and seek out for help. Get a counselor who will walk with you the journey. Get someone, the family also needs to come into the support system. But if the family does not support, still there are people out there who will be mentors, who will hold you accountable as you start the journey. Share with someone that you're struggling and they hold you accountable. And of course, there's a divine power to support you in the journey. There is hope. All hope is not lost.
Thank you so much. Caro, I want you, as you make your closing remarks, tell us about rehab, because I know many times when I talk to Christians, they really, a lot of them who have talked to me, they feel, must somebody go to rehab? What's the benefit? Must somebody who is addicted go to rehab?
Rehab is not a must, and rehab is not the answer.
Tell us, what's the answer?
Rehab is good. But I always tell people, if you're taking somebody to rehab, may you do your homework. Find out who owns that rehab. What sort of counselors work in that rehab?
Okay.
How much training do they have? Because many of these rehabs, unfortunately, in this country, are just business. You know?
Okay.
So you should do your due diligence. And if you feel that you really don't want to take your person to rehab, then you look for a good therapist. And by the way, like we have been told here, the divine power, God also works. Me, I remember in my struggle, even when I was high, I would pray, telling God to remove this thing from me. Because I had struggled to quit, I was unable. For me, rehab was a must. Because the way I was drinking, my drinking was too much. It was ridiculous. My children and I were not getting along. I was not getting along with my family. Relationships were broken. So in closing, I'll say, I'm a living testimony that it's possible to quit. I've done the worst things in my drinking. Name it, from selling things, selling household things. I've done terrible things. But I'm here to tell you that there's hope and that there's a possibility of you coming out. But the most important thing is your mindset. Your mindset is your game changer.
Yeah.
You have to focus on the desire to quit. Even if you're taken to 500 rehabs, as long as you have not purposed in your mind that you're going to stop drinking, then it's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time. And resources.
Yeah. So your mindset, ladies and gentlemen, is your game changer.
Oh, thank you. That really is powerful. And we have talked about the power of mindset in previous episodes. For me, my closing remarks, I'll pick up from your story, what you have alluded to. You grew up in a Christian home. Even in the moment you were in deep addiction, you would still pray.
Yeah.
And you would still tell God, take it away from me.
You would still go to church, by the way.
And you would still go to church.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's to tell the parents, you raised your child in church, they're in addiction, you're blaming yourself. And you're wondering, what will people say? What have I done? Is it worth it? I want to ask you to extend compassion to yourself. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs, train up a child in the way he will go. And when he is old, he will come. And we have seen Carol, of course she's not old, but we have seen her, she has actually come back to the way that the parents have taught her. I want to tell you, it's not your fault. Keep doing. Keep praying for this child. For sure, we trust in the Lord that they will come back. May God bless you, and thank you for watching today. See you in the next episodes.